Hi, welcome to Personal Pivot. I'm Claudia, and this is a space for honest conversations about change, whether it's in your career, your relationships, or within yourself. Because sometimes the most powerful move you can make is a pivot. Welcome back. So, on today's episode, you have just me by my lonesome. Actually, that's not true. It's both yourself and me who are here. So, there's two of us still, I guess. So for today's episode, I want to start off with a question. And I feel like this can get deep, but it'll really be what you want from it, whatever you want to get from it. I'll start off with this question. And my question to you is, have you ever found yourself questioning religion or questioning if God really exists? Not because you don't care and you're just questioning everything and trying to challenge everything, but because you're genuinely trying to understand what you believe or trying to learn about beliefs and others' beliefs and religion and if God is there, if he's not. So this is why I start with that question, because this is a question that I have asked myself many times. I truly believe there are so many paths to something greater. There are different religions, different beliefs, different ways of connecting. And this episode is just that. It's me finding my path, finding what's my faith. And that path has led me to where I'm at now, and that's Christianity. And just to be clear, before I know that's a big word, I don't want to scare you off. If that's not where you're at, that's okay. Again, just to be clear, this is not me preaching to you. What I'm going to do, and I'm not going to start quoting scripture left or right at you, and telling you what to believe or what's right and what's wrong. I do have my beliefs. This is me sharing my story, what I've wrestled with, what I've questioned, and how I've been figuring this out in a way that really feels real to me. Um, if you've known me for a long time, you may tell yourself, this is not who she was, or this isn't what I've heard her say before. And that's absolutely true. Some of it has been internal and part of who I am, but I never knew exactly what to label it. So what I want you to keep in mind is if you've ever felt unsure, if you've ever felt disconnected, or like you were searching but didn't quite know for what, this episode might resonate with you. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. You can also say, you know what, Claudia, this is not for me, not right now. That's totally fine. Honestly, you might just be here for the story. You might be here to let's see what she has today. Let's see what she's talking about today. Or maybe you're like, let me see where she's going with this. Either way, I'm glad you're here. And also, maybe you're listening to this not for yourself, but for someone else. And I welcome that. I'm really a big believer that we learn from one another. We learn from these stories that everybody has, from these experiences that everybody has. And maybe there's something in here for you. Maybe there's not. I don't know. So just hang in there with me. And just to say this up front, this isn't a debate, right? These are my beliefs. It's something I'm still learning. I'm definitely open. I try to keep an open mind with the things that I'm learning. I'm always open to hearing that from a place of respect and from a place of understanding, of course. So let's begin. Let's start off way back when. Let's start off with my childhood. um, I grew up in a Catholic household, you can say. My mother raised my sister and I on her own, so she was in fact a single mother. And I remember going to Sunday church. It was just part of a routine. But how long and how often? This is where it's more of a blurry memory. Catholicism wasn't something that we questioned, but it also wasn't something we really talked too much about at home. It just was. I also remember there are glimpses of little pieces here and there that I remember my mom having some Christian friends and Christianity being around us. And I think we even attended a retreat at some point. I don't know, but these are things that I remember. And the part that was the Catholic memory, let's call that. I remember going to church. I remember sitting there, hearing the messages as best as I could because I was a kid. And I mean, if you have kids or if you're surrounded by kids, you know that there's only so much that is being captured when you're asking a child to sit down and listen. And not all kids are like that, but at least the ones that are around me, it's tough to capture their attention. So I was no different than that. We did a lot of sitting, we did a lot of standing and sitting and standing and sometimes singing. I didn't know the songs, but not really understanding what any of it meant for me personally. It felt really more something that I did more so than something that I chose. And as kids, that's usually the case, right? We're being taught values at home. We're being taught beliefs. That's the responsibility of our parents to instill this in us so that we can grow up and be great humans. Now, thinking back to that time, what I looked forward to the most as a child was seeing my friends at church. I wanted to see my friends. I wanted to see if the ice cream truck was there because I knew if the ice cream truck is there when church is over, I'm going to get some ice cream. Or the raspado man. If the raspado man was there, oh, it was on. When is this mass ending? What time is this over? Because I need my raspado. So that's where I was as a kid. And in my early years, I was watching things around me, but not quite absorbing the religion part. Although I do clearly remember watching my sister, who's 4 years older than me. I saw her try to navigate her own relationship with God, and she gave me permission to share this with you. I have her permission, so I will share that she tried a lot. She was open to visits from Christian folks, from Mormon folks, from Jehovah's Witnesses, who were there to just share information with her. She was on her own path. She was learning at that time. I thought this was both admirable, like, look at my sister go, but also she was a teenager and it was kind of annoying because it was happening in my home and I just wanted to take a nap. I've always been a sleepy kid, always been a sleepy person. Right now I wish I was napping, but I have my good old coffee. Shout out to Chocolate Kitchen Cafe. But I remember clearly that it was off-putting for me. What she was doing mostly was off-putting, and what she was learning was off-putting, and the people that were around, I was just annoyed. But I think it had more to do with me than anything else. It was watching people show up to church on Sunday, right? That's where it would start. And then be completely different people during the week, judging others, talking about others, gossiping about others. Even in church, I would hear it. I would hear this person tell another person, "Hey, look at so and so. Look how they're like." These are things that just happen, right? We're human. We're not perfect. These are things that are going to happen. But for me at that time, it was me judging others. What do you know about that? I was judging other people, but they were acting in ways that didn't quite match what I thought faith was supposed to look like. So when my sister was learning, I didn't feel so inclined to learn with her because I already had this feeling inside of me about religion. But I think that it planted questions in me early on. Like, is this really what it's supposed to be like? Is this right? Is that person right? Are we supposed to be listening? And then again, the general kid questions. Is the raspado man still here? I hope the ice cream truck didn't leave. Do you think they left? That's where I was. So that's just to give you a starting point. In my teenage years, as I got older, those questions didn't bring me closer to anything or anyone. It actually pushed me further away. Let me correct myself. Better yet, I ran away from it. This was my choice. I was running away from it, and I will take full ownership of the actions that caused me to drift away. I didn't just disconnect from God. I kind of went in the completely opposite direction. I can tell you, I remember early on, I played the Ouija board because what's the harm, right? It's just a game. I remember saying things like, well, if it's so bad, why do they sell it at toy stores? Those are questions that, I don't know, you feel free to answer because I still don't know. To my late teenagers, early 20s, I was being super open to tarot card readings. And even up to a few years ago, I had my own deck of tarot cards. And that's your thing. You believe in this. great, good for you. But for me, I was exploring other avenues to find some kind of faith. And also, I think I also was trying to find answers. And in whatever form that came, I didn't know what the questions were, but I was surely finding those answers wherever I could find them. So I explored different things. I'm not crapping on anybody's belief. I'm just telling you this is what I went through. And there was a period in my life, especially as a teenager, where I was in a really negative space. This is before even exploring the questions and answers and all of that. I was just, I was negative. I felt negative. I felt drawn to darker things, not really grounded, just trying to feel something or understand something. But I can honestly say it wasn't a healthy thing for me. It wasn't something healthy that I was feeling. I wasn't my best self. I still don't know if I'm there, but I'm trying to do the work. And don't get me wrong, a lot of this was more personality, more so than religion. I mean, here I'll show you. I have Nightmare Before Christmas. I love Tim Burton. I enjoy these things that make me who I am. I love Disney villains. I feel like they have a backstory, and I tell myself there's a reason why they are the way they are. Um, uh, and again, it's personality, right? And I mix personality with beliefs and personality with faith. And I was really just as any other kid or teenager was really trying to find myself, not quite understanding what that looked like or what that was, or is faith even something that I'm going to bring into the picture? I was just trying to become a grown person, and that's where I was. If you know me now, you know that the personality part is still there. I am not trying to pretend that I believe that what I liked was bad. Just the space that I was in, which didn't help. It just was not a positive space. I don't know if my mom remembers, but if you ask her, she might tell you, well, yeah, this girl used to slam the doors when she would get angry, and she was always angry and always yelling. There's a lot that I wish I could take back from my teenage years, especially my behavior with my mom. Um, but again, different story, different episode. But this struggle, right? This internal struggle that I had, I carried that into my 20s in many different ways. I will pinpoint one particular time in my life. It was a year, a block, an entire block, 365 days in particular that were really, these days were really difficult for me. Um, while I believe that I was thriving in my career, whatever that meant at the time, I was also, many people don't know this about me, I was also drinking a lot. I'm a beer drinker. I love beer, socially, but I feel like I was doing this on the daily. And sometimes when I was alone at home, there was a lot that was going on in my early 20s. I was super heartbroken. Again, some stories for another episode. That's definitely its own episode. But I was also having nightmares, and I was just not in a good mental or emotional space. If this is where you're at, you might be thinking, oh, I know that. That's exactly the space that I'm at. And I tried my best. I was trying my best more so at work. That was the year I had just became a supervisor. So I was trying to figure things out. How do I lead a group of people when I've never done this before? And there were so many distractions, so many things happening. During that time, I don't feel like I really believed in God. I wasn't turning to God. I was just trying to get through it, as many of us do. And by it, I mean life. I felt the weight of this. Absolutely, I felt the weight. And this was also a time where I would meet people and they would want to talk to me about God. And I pushed them so far away. I would say borderline rude, but I can honestly tell you, I was being rude to people. I felt like they would come at me, they would preach at me, and that was my green light to tell them, back the F off. I don't want to hear it. This is not for me. Sometimes I would just tell them one time, right? Like, no, thank you. And the minute they would say, well, what about this? I just went into full, I would see red. I would roll my eyes. I felt really annoyed. And I think that's also normal, right? I thought when you're not ready, you're just not ready. And that's where I think I was. I just wasn't ready. It was not something I wanted to do. Interestingly, one of those people who impacted me during that time wasn't someone who was necessarily preaching to me. I do remember him being a pastor. I don't know what he's doing now in life, but I hope he hears this piece and how much that meant to me. It was my manager. My manager when I first became a supervisor. I went to him about my nightmares and how I was feeling, and he knew a lot about my life, right? He knew a lot about all of our lives. I think we were just I'll speak for myself. I was a hot mess, and I I would share the hot mess with him. He knew that I was heartbroken. He would give me these pep talks. He knew about, my that I was in that transition period where I was becoming the responsible person at home with my mom. He knew so much that was going on, and those of us who were peers and in our lives, because we share that with him. He made it okay for us to be open with him. He gave us that psychological safety. He brought that definitely to the workplace. But um, again, I went to him about these nightmares that I was having and how I was feeling. And mind you, in these years, I would also go to my best friend who you met in a previous episode. If you heard it, she and I would go to Catholic churches. And these were very special moments. I know I said like there wasn't a lot that I believed, but I feel like there were glimpses of me trying to find my way. These are special moments that I think about that I remember when one of us would say, like, let's pay a doctor's visit to the church and light a candle. And if you know the translation to that is, es una visita de doctor, right? Where you would just pop in and then pop back out. You wouldn't spend a lot of time there. So I was reintroduced to Catholic saints and some parts of the gospel, but there were also times where going to church with her would make my heart race and I would get like super uneasy and I would tell her, I gotta go. I'll wait for you outside. It was a tough time, almost like I was fighting myself to just go in for a minute. I think I sat there just thinking, what are the many different reasons why I should not go in? And then I had that internal battle with myself. Anyway, back to my manager. There was just something different about the way that he showed up, the way that he handled things, the way that he treated people. There was a steadiness in him that I gravitated towards, a sense of peace. I feel like the most of the managers I've had that I gravitate towards that I see as these mentor figures bring that. They bring a sense of peace that maybe I don't carry, but I know at that time I didn't have it. My manager, he was funny. He was always smiling, always laughing, serious when he needed to be, but he wore his beliefs, his faith actually, in on his sleeves. And I found a mentor in him. So I went to him about many things. Again, going back to my nightmares. There was something that I clearly remembered that year that he one of the times, one of the occasions that I went to him to tell him everything that was going on, all these internal battles I had. And one of the things that sticks out to me, even to this day, that I know I can honestly say that I've probably said this to other people. I'm going to try to not to butcher his words. He said, Mija, do you believe in God? And I know my answer to him was, I don't know. And he said, okay, well, he believes in you. But guess what? So does the other guy. And if you don't believe in something, you're like an empty vase. You're leaving yourself open for the other guy too. So let me pause right there. I don't know what that does for you, but for me, I was like, man, that hit me like you wouldn't believe. I don't think he knows this, but when he said that to me, I ran out to get a rosary. I learned the Hail Mary. This prayer would wake me from the worst nightmares. Learn how to, maybe I didn't know how to pray, but I was on repeat with it in my mind. And it did help with my nightmares. But what he did with that question and then that mic drop moment, it was almost like he put a spotlight on where I was in my own relationship with God. And that was deep. That was deep for someone in her early 20s trying to figure things out. Here's the thing though. I did believe in God and I do believe in God. And I think a lot of us do in some way. And if you believe in something else or someone else, all power to you where your faith lies. Good for you, right? This is great stuff. This is great stuff to talk about. I do think a lot of us believe in some way. We turn to him, those of us who believe in God, believe in Jesus. We turn to him when we need something. We turn to him when life gets hard, when we're scared, when a loved one is sick. I know there's times where I say nothing about God or to God, but my mom has gotten sick and there I am. Hey, it's me. Here I am. I have some things to ask for. We turn to him when our loved ones are sick, when we're not okay. Even something as simple as rooting for a sports team. Like suddenly we're praying when it really means something to us. I've seen people, hey, I've been there, right? Super Bowl time, Seahawks were playing, the Seahawks playing in the Super Bowl and they won the Super Bowl. Thank you. But I was like, oh, please, 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 please. We do that. It's what makes us human, right? That we turn to what we know, depending on where our faith is. But outside of those moments, I was kind of just living my life. There wasn't a real relationship there. It was more like a quick check in when I needed something and then moving on with life. Even now, I remind myself, and I have to remind myself, God is not a genie, but he does know your heart. Even when the prayer is an ugly prayer, like my pastor says, he says, give him all your ugly prayers, whatever they are, just leave them with him. So some of these are ugly prayers. I don't know what to say sometimes, but guess what? I say it anyway. I do have a journal now where I write my letters to God and I just scribble. I know there's some drawings in there, but that's what I do. That's how I connect. So in my 20s and most of my 30s, I was just living life, focusing on work and just being human. Fast forward to where I am now. Last year, I was watching my husband find his own path to Christianity. He was figuring it out on his own. I know he's still doing the work and he knew how I felt about being preached to. So he never pushed me. I shared all of this with him. He never pushed me. He never was like, how dare you not believe what I believe, whatever, right? However, being the curious cat that I am, as he's on his path, I it's like eating candy in front of a kid. That's what happens when you're learning something and I'm not. I was asking questions. I was like, "What do you have there? What you got there? What is that? Can I see?" So I was asking him questions about what he was learning, and that's where my moment with God and Jesus happened. Um, so he was watching a TV show. He was watching The Chosen. I don't remember how far into the first or second season he was, but I would catch glimpses of it. And again, like a kid watching another kid eating candy, I would stop and be like, what's this? What's going on? What's that? I would ask him if the parts that he was watching were in the Bible reading that he was doing. So he would tell me if he remembered, or he would tell me what he would remember, or if it was something that he had read about. He would also say, like, I honestly don't remember, but I don't know, I'll watch it. And what do you know? I finally listened in the way that I know how, through a form of entertainment, right? I love TV, I love movies, um, music, all of this is what captures my attention. And this is where I found what I didn't even know I was looking for. It was through entertainment. And no one was pushing anything on me, again, which is the way that I learn. But I was being exposed to it in a different way. I don't know what that is for you, what it has been for you. I would be really interested to find out what that is because we all have our thing, right? And for me, that's what it was. And naturally, I was going to ask questions about this. So I approached this in the same way that I approach everything else. I wanted to learn. I ask questions, I observe, I try to understand because I didn't want religion handed to me. I didn't want someone else's thoughts just being handed to me in the way that they understood. I wanted it to make sense to me. And that's where I'm at now. I'm still trying to make sense of it. But last year at some point something clicked and I realized that what I had been missing this whole time wasn't a religion. It was a relationship with God on his terms. I'm learning it the way that I know how to learn it, but this is still on his terms. Um, but understood again in a way that made sense to me at my pace, in my own way of learning. And that shift changed everything because it stopped feeling like something external and it started feeling like something more personal. Now, I'm a believer that you are who you hang with or what you surround yourself by. My mom used to tell me this when I was younger, and of course I would fight her and say, no, no, I know what I'm doing. I make my own decisions. My friends are the best, blah, blah, blah. I probably have been someone else's bad influence. I don't know. And if I was, I'm so sorry. And I hope you're in a better space now and have better friends. But I do believe that. My husband and I are very fortunate to have friends who are on their own path. We were introduced to Calvary Community Church in Westlake Village by our friends. This is our current church. It is in the valley. It is far from where we live. The drive is so worth it. We were invited, and because we were also knocking on doors, again, my husband doing his own learning, me doing my own learning, we're knocking on doors. We accepted the invitation and led ourselves into his home. And that's where we're going now. That's where we attend. So now, where I'm at now, I've been baptized. Both my husband and I are baptized. I found a church that feels like home and it feels like community. That's a community that's really helping me learn how I learn best. I mean, believe it or not, you should see me when I go to service. I have the women's Bible. It's a really big Bible that my best friend gifted to me. It means the world to me. I open it, I'm writing, I'm taking notes. It feels like school. And I love that for me. But um does this mean that I agree with everything that I read or hear? No. I question it, I ask about it, but I do believe that the gospel, the word of God, is not up for debate. That's a tough pill to swallow, right? But it's really not. However, I believe there may be things that we misinterpret because we're human and we make connections how we see it best. I think the word of Jesus gets twisted sometimes. I think it gets weaponized. Um, yeah, I feel like it's used in ways that serve our own interests instead of actually reflecting on what he taught. And where I've landed now is honestly pretty simple. I'm capturing here, I'm questioning here. I'm like, oh, I don't like that. I like that. I'm asking all the questions, right? Which I think is a great place to be in. But where I've landed is pretty simple. And where I'm at right now is from what I'm learning from the word of Jesus, from learning about God, my bottom line right now that I'm capturing that I feel is really loud and clear is, and I'm going to use profanity here, don't be an asshole. Don't be a jerk. Don't be that to other people, right? So that's what I've gathered from my learning. Just quick notes from all my note taking. This is where I'm at. We're all going through something. No one is better than anyone else. Um, what I've learned from my church is to live and love like Jesus, and that's to love people. And yes, don't be an a-hole. The idea itself is super simple, very easy to understand. The problem with that is that it's not easy to do it. It's actually really, really hard because in life, it shows up in the small moments. Like, I don't know, let's take, for example, when you're driving around, if you live in LA, you're driving around LA, you're stuck in traffic, you're already having a rough day. For me, that was yesterday. I was looking forward to my coffee and I dropped it without even taking a sip. And that's it. Everything was ruined for me. So let's say that happens to you. Someone cuts you off. Your immediate reaction is to curse them out, to give them the finger. Or when you hold the door open for someone and there's a part of you that wants that acknowledgement and you hear nothing. Like, did you see what I just did? I just held the door for you and you're saying nothing. Um, when you meet someone that you don't immediately click with and your mind goes straight to judging them, those reactions are human and they happen. But they're also moments when we can choose something different. And I don't know, the question is, do we? I mean, I can go on and on about this alone, but I won't. I do want to leave you with this though. And I don't know if you have questions about what I'm learning so far, please send them my way. Um, the email right now is personalpivotpodcast@gmail.com. Please feel free to send them. I'm happy to hear your questions or even for you to share your insights. I'd love to share that with others. Again, not to debate because that's not what this is. And I promise you, it has come through and it will come through for you too. If that's something that you want to learn about, when you start sharing with other people, you may get someone that tries to fight you on these things. And it's really what you do with that determines where you're gonna go next. I'm still learning. Right now, I feel like this is the beginning for me. I'm still learning, I'm still questioning, I'm still building this relationship in a way that feels real to me, and if you're in a place where you're disconnected or you're just curious, you don't have to have it all figured out. Look at me. You don't have to have it all figured out. And this is why I'm saying this doesn't feel like, oh, I learned this, the end. No, it's the very beginning for me. You are allowed to take your time. I'm allowed to take my time. You're allowed to take your time to explore, to learn, to find what this looks like for you. And if it's not Christianity, then what is it? What actions are you taking to find that path to something positive in your life that keeps you grounded? I'm still figuring it out, but for the first time, it does feel like I'm not searching alone anymore. And that's a great feeling. I will end this episode with what I always come back to, which helps keep me in check. And that's if God's not real, okay, cool. At least I didn't go through life being a complete a-hole. And if he is real, I just hope he knows that I was trying my best to figure it out. Right? That's all I can do. And I'm gonna continue to learn and find my own path and share what I can if you're interested. Again, this episode may not have been for you and you may have more questions than anything else. Great. Let's figure it out. Let's learn it together. But I do hope that and I do believe it. I'm at that point where I believe he's real. I believe Jesus was real. I hope that it's very clear that I am trying my best to figure it out. And maybe I did it in a way that um was not the right way before, but that's what growth is, right? It's us learning how to do things better as we get older. So that's it. That's all I have for you now. Follow, like, and share. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Personal Pivot. If this conversation resonated with you, be sure to follow, share it with someone who might need it, and leave a review. Until next time, keep growing, keep evolving, and don't be afraid to pivot.